Okay, good afternoon. This is Richard Hsu, host of Hsu Untied. This afternoon, I'm very thrilled and honored to have with me as my guest, Luca Salvi, who's the current chair of Sheppard Mullin. Luca, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Richard. It's great to be here.
So Luca, we've met a couple of times, I think, in person. Let me start by asking you kind of what, I know you're taking on the chair role, but what kind of lawyer were you or are you? What kind of practice did you have?
Yeah, so I was always a deal lawyer, Richard. So I started out in transactional, and that's really been the focus my entire career, except for a few months at the very beginning where I was asked to do a little bit of bankruptcy litigation in New York. But my entire career has been focused on private equity, M&A, and transactional deal work.
Mm-hmm. And do you still practice law in your role today, or you've given that up to do the chair thing?
Well, I primarily, we're over 1,000 lawyers, over $1 billion in revenue. So my commitment is first and foremost to managing the firm. Although I do get these wonderful moments where I am called back in, or I have to, connect with my clients or my former clients. And so I get some of the best parts of it where they need, that advisor, that trusted advisor to come in and talk about issues on deals or transactions. So I do get a little bit of that, but I'm always talking to clients every day, right? I'm always on the phone with our clients at the firm. And so I feel like I get a pretty good sense of what's most important to clients, day to day, week to week, year to year.
But you're not turning drafts or anything like that.
No, no. Unfortunately, I'm not doing that. And quite honestly, I miss a lot of that. I really love the practice of law. So that's been something that I don't get as much of anymore.
Well, tell me a little bit about how you came to take on this chair role. I mean, I know that's, it's not always an easy decision. It's a big commitment. You have to give up practicing, presumably something you really enjoy doing. What made you want to do this, make this decision and do this?
Richard, I actually think about that a lot because I'm not quite sure. It was never really on my bucket list over the years that I've been here at Sheppard Mullin. But I think when I look back, I've been incredibly lucky and privileged over the years to have different roles, different management positions, being able to sit in different perches around the firm. So I spent 3 years going back overseas when we opened up our Brussels office. I came back, I became the managing partner of the DC office. I had the privilege of being on various committees, including our diversity and inclusion committee for many years. And then for the last 7 years, I've been on the executive committee of the firm. And so I think over time, with my practice where I was able to really work with a lot of our folks around the firm together with these different roles, there came a point where the executive committee had nominated me to be the chair of the firm, and I was voted in a little over a year ago.
Oh, very nice. Well, of course, I knew your predecessor, Guy, extremely well. And he was a wonderful, charismatic leader. I'm sure you remember him well.
Hard act to follow, Richard.
I'm sorry?
He's a very hard act to follow. He's an amazing person, amazing leader. So we've been incredibly lucky to have him for 21 years.
Yes, and I tried to get him on this podcast numerous times and I couldn't. So. So so now that you've taken over this role, I mean, are you trying to do things a lot differently, trying to keep it the same, a little bit of both? Tell me a little bit of how you're steering this ship.
Yeah, well, I've been lucky again because I've been able to be part of a lot of the discussions over my tenure here, right? I mean, we're a very transparent firm. We talk about everything that's really material with all of our partners. But for the last 7 years, I've also been on the executive committee. So I think it's really about what we've done over the last, 3 decades, which is we continue to focus on what we do best. We have an incremental strategic growth plan that we review all the time, consistently, and then we affect it, we implement it. So I think, my plan, my priority is to continue to do that on a firm basis, focusing on those areas where, we have strategic advantage, where we have practices of renown, and to continue to tweak and add that and continue to grow. We're very much a growth platform.
Mhm. Now, was it hard doing this job? You took over during COVID. COVID was still going on. Was it hard to kind of do this remotely, or how was that at the beginning?
Well, it's funny. So as I said, I was elected a little over a year ago, and I had a 6-month transition period where I was frankly traveling quite a bit through it, doing a lot of things remotely as well, right? Just like everyone else. So I've been incredibly lucky to have a lot of really wonderful people around me, and the firm has done incredibly well. So, you know, COVID, the pandemic, has been a challenge for all firms, and we're not immune to that. But I think there's also an opportunity there, right? We were able to leverage those opportunities while also facing the challenges. So I feel very lucky and very prepared, and quite frankly, with Guy and other management and our partners, it's actually been challenging, but also something that I think we've all been prepared for.
Mhm. I take it you're traveling now full tilt. You're going around.
Oh yeah. I'm on the road quite a lot these days. Although, again, trying to calibrate that to come back to home base as often as I can with my family.
Mhm. Now, turning to a topic that's of course very important to me, which is recruiting. Tell me a little bit about how important is recruiting for you, and do you personally get involved? And tell me what your role in recruiting is now as chair of the firm.
Oh, absolutely. I think recruiting is one of the key areas that I'm involved in. It takes up a lot of my time. I think it's really important for us and for who we are that I'm involved in recruiting. As I said, we're a very transparent firm. And I think one of the things that really distinguishes us is that, all of us, particularly us in management, are very accessible to everyone, right? And that means that we want to be very much involved in getting to know all of our partners, all of our associates, all of our staff from the very beginning. And that includes when we're out in the lateral market.
Mm-hmm. So you've been spending a lot of time doing recruiting, I guess, personally.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, very much so. And I enjoy it. It's one of the highlights of my job.
I'm not sure the chair of every firm says that, but that's all.
Well, too bad for them. It's actually it's actually a really wonderful way to get to know your folks and really to get a really broad, diverse swath of folks that make the business better.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I should tell you that I've heard now from a lot of the candidates, of course, we've submitted, we do a lot of work with you, of course. And one of the things I do hear from our candidates is how incredibly transparent you guys are. Even at the offer letter stage, you'll disclose, how the finances work, and candidates are really surprised to hear this. Tell me a little about how does that tie in with the philosophy of the firm? Why do you do that? Why is that important to you?
Well, I think ultimately it's important to us because we want people to be as excited about us as we are about them. And I think the way that you establish that is through trust and through transparency. We don't want to be a place that is, top down driven. We want to be a place where we're all working together. We're very collegial. We go out and hunt in teams because we like to collaborate together. Mm-hmm. And so part of that philosophy, that team-driven approach is that, we want to be completely transparent with who we are. And we want people to be here because they're incredibly happy. And I think that goes a long way to why we have such an extraordinary retention rate at Sheppard Mullin.
Mm-hmm. Now, you talked about obviously growth is important to you. What are some of the, kind of broad brush, high level things you would like to see grow as in 2022 and beyond that you're looking to do?
Yeah. Well, I think, as I said before, our gold standard really has been our strategic incremental growth. Mm-hmm. But it's also been strategic, right? So we've really been focusing on those areas, those practices of renown, where we see a lot of potential, a lot of forward runway, frankly, for us to grow. Mm-hmm. And so that's going to be including, as part of our strategic plan, certain areas where I think we have a real competitive advantage, right? We have a very large private equity practice. Healthcare is a real focus of ours. Life sciences, we have a great consumer practice. And then we do a lot with anything that touches the government as part of our government business group. So these are all areas where we really take a long-term view. We want to invest. We want to make sure that we are bringing aboard the best, the brightest. We're cherry picking the best out in the market, but we're also growing internally, right, organically. So it's really a multifaceted approach that is, very detailed. We spend a lot of time on the business plans across these areas, and it's been a really successful part of how we've continued to grow over the years. Then on the other side, Richard, we're also going to continue to grow across our offices, right? Making sure that we're going to be focusing on those offices where we want to continue to build our critical mass. That's been another part of our growth formula.
Now, I have always thought of Sheppard Mullin. Obviously, I was a lawyer myself for 25 years. I've always thought of it as, being a California firm. Obviously, I know you're all over the world now, but are you the first chair that's not in California? Was that a deliberate decision? I mean, obviously, I know Guy lived in San Diego and all that, but tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, was it a deliberate decision? We're over 1,000 lawyers now. We have 15 offices around the globe. So while I think a large part of our history has been based in California, and while California is still, a very heavy part of our weighted population, we are now a national and international firm. So I am the first chair in our almost 100-year history that is based outside of California. But I think that's an incredibly positive message, right? First and foremost, we're one firm. We are a very top, sophisticated firm that plays at the highest levels. And we have offices across the United States and across the globe. And so I think that's sending a really important message to the market. But it also just reflects who we are, right? We are one firm.
Do you ever wake up in the morning and wish you were still just a practicing lawyer?
Well, quite honestly, Richard, I miss the practice of the law, right? I've been incredibly lucky and blessed to have practiced a very large part of my career overseas, right? My practice was very much focused on cross-border transactions, but also private equity, a lot of aerospace and defense work. And so I've really been incredibly lucky to have great relationships that, I miss them. And I miss the practice of law, but I also love what I do. And I'm incredibly lucky as well to be able to have the job that I have. And it's a real privilege. And as I said before, it's a job where every day I really look forward to coming into the office.
Well, there's some people who say that, the best chairs of firms are the reluctant chairs, in the sense of that they really love being a lawyer first. And I think that's important because, as in say, for example, the role of recruiting, I think it's important that, candidates, people you're talking to, whatever, know that, how much you love practicing, because ultimately, of course, that is the business of the law firm. I mean, you're representing it, but, it's still the practice that's the most important thing that people are attracted to.
Well, I mean, first and foremost, right, that is what we do. Our prime directive is really exceptional client service, right? And that's why we're in the business that we're in. So I do think it's important for everyone at our law firm to appreciate that. I certainly do. And it's something that I care very deeply about. And I want to make sure that as we keep going down the road, that we are always tweaking. We're not taking any of that for granted, and that we're always trying to get better. So, I feel very lucky that I get to, work in the role that I have, but I also very much realize that it is a team sport, right? It takes a village to do what we've done, and we're going to continue to do that.
Yeah, totally. Well, I know, speaking as a recruiter, I really like it when the chair of the firm also enjoys recruiting, because it just makes it so much easier. That they can get involved, and they enjoy meeting candidates. Sometimes I feel like I have to foist it upon them. Not everybody, but it's nice. I always like it when the chair says, "I love recruiting and I want to be involved." So that's always good.
Oh, yeah. Well, I feel bad for those chairs that aren't actually enjoying it, right? I mean, it really can be, as I said, it really can be the highlight of the job. And you get to meet so many amazing, wonderful people. And I think if you do the job right, it's all about making the firm a better, stronger, healthier place too, right? So that's a real responsibility. But I think with that comes, some real highlights and joys. So I feel really lucky to be able to have that privilege. So
well, and it sounds like you're having fun in this job too. I mean, I can hear it in your voice. It sounds like you're actually enjoying it.
Yeah, well, it's again, I'm not going to say that it doesn't have its challenges. When you're running a big firm with other folks, but I absolutely love it. It's a great and it's a great place, and I think that has everything to do with it, right? I really love the people, and at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to, right?
Totally.
It's the people that you work with.
Yeah, totally. Well, Luca, it's been a wonderful conversation, and I so appreciate your taking the time.
Yeah.
I certainly look forward to working with you from a recruiting perspective, and really, again, thank you for taking the time.
Well, thank you, Richard. It's been a pleasure. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
This is Richard Hsu and Luca Salvi. Thanks.